Hi everyone, it is 5:31. We are just waiting to reach quorum and then we'll start the meeting. If you are a participant and you want to provide public comments, please use the Q&A function and let me know if you'd like to get into the list.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
Thought I was late.
You're not late as long as you're not the last one, right?
My clock is like 5 minutes ahead, so always, and my phone is too.
Yeah.
Some reason I always run late, or I always think I'm late.
So we do have a quorum now, Amanda, if you want to get it started.
Sure. We're like live, so we can do it.
Yes, we are live and it's being recorded.
Perfect.
So while Joe is not here, you can get it going.
Well, welcome everybody. It's nice to see you all again, and I'm glad you're all here. I believe Joel is going to be here. I haven't heard otherwise, so I'll do this until he pops in. So let's see, we need to start with the draft agenda, right? Oh, yes.
I would like to add an item to the agenda, because I realize there is no report from the ad hoc committee. We have some commissioners attending the ad hoc committee, and I would like to have a report from the commissioners.
Hi, Ibrahim. Sorry, Amanda, just for FYI, that will be part of the HRNI update. So it is in the agenda, it's just under item 9.
Thank you, Fabio. Sorry about that. I didn't.
Thanks, Fabio. I was going to guess it was number 6, but that makes number 9 makes sense. Any other thoughts about the agenda tonight? Okay, so then motion to approve the draft agenda.
I make the motion to approve the draft agenda.
Okay, and a second.
I second it.
Thank you, Daniel. And all in favor can raise their hands. It's fine. Okay, great. Thank you. That carries. So then looks like we're on to public comment. Do we have anyone for public comment, Fabio?
I did not receive any requests. You can ask the participants list if anyone is willing to provide public comments now, and then we can add them.
Okay. So if anybody in the participant list wants to provide public comment, I think we've got to use the Q&A function for that, and then we can add you. Oh, and looks like Joel's connecting. So I can, hey Joel, we are just starting public comment, so I can pass this over to you.
Great. Do you have anyone sign up for public comment today?
No, no one has signed up.
Okay. In that case, we'll just have a look over the minutes. If people want to take a minute or two, take a look over those, or if you've already had a chance, you can go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes.
Is mine the only screen that has a big gray, it looks like something's posted, but it's not, it's blocking out the agenda? Is everybody else's screen look normal?
Yeah, I see it too.
Oh, okay, it's gone. Thank you, whoever made that change.
I make the motion to approve the minutes.
A second.
All those in favor?
Just a clarification, we have 2 minutes and we have to do one at a time. So there is the June minutes and the September.
June minutes. I make the
June
motion.
or June and July, Ibrahim?
Just
It's June and September, Joe.
Okay, great.
Can't meet in July.
I
That's
make
right.
the motion to approve the June meeting. We have to do it separately, right?
Sure.
Yes.
Yep.
I'll second that.
Great. All those in favor? Perfect.
Make the motion to approve September meeting.
I'm unmuted. I'll second that one too.
All those in favor? Okay. Thank you, everybody. In that case, we'll move on to agenda review. Does anyone have any problems with the agenda for today?
That already happened, Joe. Amanda did it.
Oh, great. Thanks, Amanda. In that case, we'll move straight to the Eugene Police Liaison update.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? I have to apologize ahead of time. I'm not sure what's going on, but there must be some issues with the internet in the police department today because some of what you've been saying I can't hear and it's cutting in and out. So
Hello?
bear with me. So for the update, since we met last time,
Oh, Chris, you're muted.
I can't hear him. There we go.
okay, that must have been my fault. I can't blame that on the internet. I'm not sure how I did that. Anyhow, since we met last time, there's been 4 bias crime reports that have been reported to the police department. 3 of them had to do with property damage and graffiti, and the 4th was an assault, disorderly conduct, where we did make an arrest on that one. As far as the numbers go and the trend, average between the last 2 years would be 42 cases at this point. We are at 50 for this year, which is an increase of 16% over the last 2 years. And I think just that's all I have for numbers. Are there questions about the numbers or the cases there? Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
The 4 that have happened since, were they targeting a particular group of people?
Yes. 3 of them were targeting Black people, and the 4th was towards the Latino community. Now, that one there's some. It's a little tough because of the way that the guy was acting and behaving. It's a little tough to know if what he said. He said it to a white person, but there happened to be a Latino gentleman there who was kind of I guess a co-victim of this crime. So it's that one's not cut and dry, but it appears that was at least partially his motivation. When we met last time, I was asked, and I said that I would get some information to Fabio about things that we were trying to do around here to proactively prepare for what could potentially be a tumultuous time in the next month or so. And I didn't find time to reach out to Fabio and give him the information, but I thought that I'd share some of the stuff that I've been working on with you here tonight. So the first thing, I've got a list of about 5 things here, 4 things, is that I've asked all of our detectives in our special investigations unit to reach out to their contacts in the community and to assure them that we are trying to look out for them, encourage them to report any kind of suspicious behavior or certainly any kind of criminal action, just to kind of strengthen those relationships and give some assurance to folks that we're we're here for them. Our investigations unit, specifically kind of around the election time, is going to be doing a schedule adjustment, so that if there are issues of assaultive behavior, property damage, that type of thing, if any kind of a protest was to turn unlawful, that we would have detectives here to be able to help with a response to that. And if there was to be a bias crime that occurred during that time, we would have detectives hopefully on scene to be able to handle the case right away. Another thing that I've been suggesting, and let me back up just a little bit. I want to make clear that I'm the investigations lieutenant, and I can fairly well direct what happens in the investigations division, but I am, the liaison between you folks and our department. And sometimes what I can do is make suggestions and start conversations, but I don't necessarily have the authority to change things throughout the entire department. So one thing that I thought would be good after our last meeting, especially, was for the chief to give some sort of message to the community about our how seriously we take bias crimes, and how to report. And I'm hoping, I guess I won't speak for him, but I know that he's going to be present tomorrow at the release of the hate and bias report, and that might be an opportunity for him to share some of those feelings with the community. Lastly, or almost last, I guess, the Captain Adams. I don't know if you've met him. He's my boss for the investigations division, and he does want to meet you folks, but he wasn't able to do it today. Hopefully soon. Anyhow, he and I have been talking about the department's training and policy as it pertains to bias crimes. I think there's some room there for us to revisit that policy, see if it's where we want to be, if it makes sense to everybody, and then and potentially make some changes to that, as well as looking at doing some training on bias crimes investigations for all officers in the department. Now, I say that, but I do want to preface that with, that's one of those things where I may not have as much influence as I wish I did, as far as getting the entire department to go to training. But I think it's something that we can certainly shoot for. And lastly, I've been thinking a lot about, specifically I was asked about what we can do to be proactive to, I guess in theory, prevent bias crimes from happening. And I'm really struggling with that. It's such a tough thing to predict when any kind of crime is going to happen. And it's tough to know when it's going to happen and stop it, in progress or before it happens. Certainly, if we had a crystal ball and we could, figure that out, we will try. If we ever get information that something's going to happen, we'll try. But I think our main focus is really on the back end is trying to investigate these, taking them seriously, and holding folks accountable that are committing the hateful and biased crimes in our city.
One thought that I had, or question, is
yes,
when you're talking about being proactive, isn't effective training proactive? And if I heard you right, like you said, you can't make people go. Can that be what's it take to mandate that kind of effective training?
I'm sorry, you said I can't make people do what?
You can't make people go to the trainings.
Oh, sure.
I thought
Sure.
you said. And so I was just going to ask you, what will it take to mandate, to make it necessary for training, effective trainings?
Sure.
I mean, that seems to me along the lines of proactive.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I just, I guess from what I do, of course, I would love to be able to to step in and stop the crime before it ever took place. But and it's a tough thing for me and a lot of officers that you can't do that sometimes. But as far as mandating, the issue isn't so, I mean, if the department decided that we were going to offer this training to every officer, there certainly isn't an issue with, with the officers not going to the training. It's really, an issue of limited time to offer training and what's decided to be offered during those training hours.
Go ahead, Ibrahim.
Thank you, Lieutenant Harrison. And I do have a question pertaining to being proactive. And by the way, it's very unfortunate that the community is asking for a change within the police department. And I think part of the change will only come through trainings. And if the department is not finding a way to send people to training, it's kind of put some clouds over our expectation and our hopes. But we're having the election in about 2 weeks now, I believe. And we have seen an increase on threat against the ballot. On River Road area, I had a conversation with Bonnie today. Some people have seen the ballot stolen, and we personally and the NAACP is expecting some unrest after the result of the election, regardless of who wins. And we as people of color, we as Black people living in Eugene are concerned that if the outcome of the election do not go the way that some of the hate groups in this town want to, there may be some threat to our safety, to our security. What the Eugene Police Department is doing to make sure that on November 3rd, November 4th, and maybe a week after the election results are in or coming in, and some people being unhappy and potentially looking to harm people who look like me, what the Eugene Police is doing to prevent that or to react to that? That would be my first question. I'll let you respond to that.
Yeah. I've spoken a little bit already about us trying to adjust our staffing levels to be prepared for whatever may happen, whether it's a certain group being targeted or general unrest. I think you're wise in that you see that this could be an issue for our city. Increasing the staffing, I think, is the biggest step that we've taken, which means that we'll be more visible. But to your second point about preventing it, that's where I really do struggle. Of course, we want to prevent it, and I hope with more visible presence during let's just say the week of or whatever the time period is, that can be somewhat of a deterrent. But it's just so hard to predict or to know when a single individual or a couple individuals may go out and commit a crime. I don't, if you have suggestions, I'm more than happy to hear them. I struggle with that myself.
Thank you. And if I may, Joe, I have a second question.
Sorry, Ibrahim, I want to make sure if other folks have questions, we get to them. Does anyone else have questions? Okay, go ahead, Ibrahim. Go ahead.
So, it's unfortunate that we're gonna have the ad hoc committee report before after your presentation, but I'm just kind of curious what Eugene Police Department. We know that the City Council has this ad hoc committee going on. What are the Eugene Police Department is doing to think about internal, not either gathering concern, but also moving toward internal reform or this reviews of certain policy and procedures. And I want to be a little bit on that. When Mr. Rodriguez died after his encounter with one of your officers, we realized that the technology failed. The camera was the body cam was in that interaction was down, but the patrol car camera wasn't on. Is there any kind of review on your policies and procedures that is being considered right now?
Yeah, the truth is, I don't know.
Okay.
The policy and the I guess the more overall direction for where the department is going is kind of a bit above me.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't have more of an answer.
Thank you for your answer.
You're welcome.
I have a follow-up question.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Follow-up question is to the first question that you answered of Ibrahim's. I'm wondering if the EPD is prepared or preparing for potential unrest to last from November 3rd to January 20th.
I haven't been involved. Am I still there? I haven't been involved in the discussions as far as patrols overall response. Again, I'm in investigations, but even that being said, I think it seems fairly possible, I guess I'll say, that could be the case. And so I would imagine those discussions have been had, but I haven't personally had them.
Let's go ahead. My question is, have you considered putting up a rumor control line? I've seen that as a successful strategy in keeping information updated for people in other communities.
Well, I'm not sure if I've exactly heard of that. So can you tell me what that is exactly?
Just in a time of high community stress where there's a lot of information coming from different areas, like we experienced in the wildfires,
Sure.
A community entity puts up a rumor control line where all information known about the ongoing unfolding incident is people can call and check information to make sure that it's accurate.
I see. I haven't been, like I said, I haven't been part of those conversations. It's certainly an idea that I can share. So it's a line where someone calls in and they have a question to ask. Is it staffed or is it just recordings of the current information?
I usually see it staffed. Often a crisis line might do it, or an emergency operations center.
Sure. Yeah, it's certainly something that it's a suggestion that I can share for sure.
Wonder if that could include a website that could be updated very, in real time.
Yeah, the process is part of the incident command structure. The
Yeah.
PIO usually can stand up those resources, including the remote control line.
Yeah, I think a website, I don't know about setting up a specific website, but certainly on our social media platforms, typically if something of high public interest is going on, they're pretty good about putting information out on those platforms.
Any other questions or comments? Okay.
Okay,
Alrighty,
thank
well,
you. Take care, everybody.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
for being here.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Alright. Fabio, I think I might have lost track of the agenda. Where did I moved my.
Yeah, it is the event tomorrow, the Hate and Bias Report release, and
Great.
I'll be speaking about that. So first, just for the record and for the people watching as participants, details of the event are posted at the City of Eugene website, so eugene-or.gov. And if you navigate to the bottom of the page, we have a section called Events and Meetings. So it's here on the events. For tomorrow, we have the annual Hate and Bias Report. It's a press release event that will be available online via Zoom. And the details to join that event are also posted here. You can get it's tomorrow at 10:30, and there is the link and the password, or people can also join by phone. So this is the 8th year that the city is releasing such a report. We have an overview of everything that happened in the past years in terms of hate crimes and cases of discrimination. So hate crimes are reported to the Eugene Police, and cases of discrimination are reported to our office. And our office is responsible for compiling a report and releasing it annually. So tomorrow at the press release, we will have the mayor, the city manager, the chief of police, and our staff from HRNI presenting the City of Eugene commitment and efforts to prevent and combat and respond to hate and bias, and also some content on other initiatives that support this work on hate and bias prevention in response in Eugene. We also have a letter, a community support letter that was signed by over 40 organizations in town, including several other government agencies in support of that letter, and they made a commitment to share the letter and the report with their membership. So that's a way for us to increase awareness about the reporting system, so more people can connect with either Eugene Police or with our office if they want to report the case and also seek support. Joe will be there tomorrow representing the commission. The event is closed, so only the people who have an active role in the event will be at the event place. Everything else will be online. So Joe will be there representing the commission and presenting this community support letter. And if you have questions about the report or the event, I can't give specific details about the report because we are only releasing it tomorrow. So the numbers that will appear in the report, the findings, will be available after the press release, but I can answer all the questions.
Anyone have questions? Ibrahim?
That's not a question. I want to just thank Fabio for choosing the NACP to hold this event, and we are always honored to be part of this release, and I'll see you tomorrow.
I want to thank everyone who helped us spread the word about the letter. When you see the report, the HRC doesn't appear among the supporters, like the community support letter, because the HRC is listed as one of the groups behind the report. So the HRC is credited in the report itself, in the staff page. And we have the list from last year. So you see Ella Kubok instead of Heather Selicki because it's the 2019 report.
I have a question. Has there ever been consideration of including as part of the hate and bias report complaints about hate and bias that have been filed against the EPB to be included in its own section or otherwise? Has there ever been that discussion?
We have had that conversation, and we actually checked on the report. So we checked with this auditor's office report to see what was there. We did not have data that was specific to discrimination by EPG officers. So the reports they get are usually policy violations. So in the hate and bias report, we have a link. We have a paragraph that explains that cases against EPG officers are usually investigated by the auditor's office, and we have a link to where people can get that report. There was a request, and we had that conversation with the city manager about adding more information. But when we checked on the data, it didn't warrant this inclusion.
Question.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Would that be, let's say the investigation is found substantiated, a civil rights violation by a police officer, would that be listed under hate and bias crime?
If it's like wrongdoing by a public agent, that would be in the auditor's office report. We would not, because we cannot have EPG investigating itself, because the EPG is doing the hate crimes investigation. So that will be outside of the work we have in place for this report that we're releasing tomorrow.
And follow-up question. So I agree with you. We cannot have EPD investigating itself. So is that a way for you to say that EPD investigating itself may be problematic? Sorry to ask you that question, but.
No, what I'm saying is that they cannot do that. So if there's something involving EPG officers, an investigation has to be conducted by an independent agency. So that's what comes in the auditor's office report. And when we checked the data for 2019, we did not have a single case that was found to be motivated by discrimination by EPG officers against a protected class. So that's why it doesn't appear in the report. We have a link where people can go to the auditor's office webpage and report and see all other kinds of complaints about against EPG. So it is listed there. It's just that we have not had a case that was a clear case of discrimination.
Thank you, Fabio.
I have two quick questions on that. One is that determines that it wasn't based on hate and bias or bias.
Sorry, Bonnie, can you repeat that?
Who is it that you said that you looked through the auditors and there was not one case that was determined to be based on hate and bias? Who is it that makes that determination?
It is the investigation that is done by the auditor's office, and they review like the cameras that the officers have and the evidence on the case, and they try to find if the act was motivated by hate and bias and discrimination, or if it was just a response to a crime that had occurred.
And the other question I have is, oh God, it's already gone up. They came right out of my head. I'm not remembering. I'll ask you separately, Fabio. Thank you. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Does the auditor's office break? I know they have a lot of different complaints. Do they break out by topic area? Like if someone files a complaint and says an officer did X and it was because that officer was biased against me for whatever reason, does the auditor break things out like that?
I'm not sure. I don't remember how the report's laid out. those cases and many of them are reviewed by the Civilian Review Board. So information on some specific cases are available through the records of that group.
Right, but there's.
I can share a link to the report, to the auditor's office report. And I can take a few minutes when you are on a different topic to check, and I can answer that after I check the report. I don't remember by memory how it's laid out.
The last thing I'll say is there's very few cases that the Civilian Review Board looks at, very few compared to the number of complaints. And so that isn't a very compelling, I think, response. And I think it would be worthwhile. I will look at that if you go ahead. And I've just never seen that that was broken out that way. And it seems like that would be valuable, particularly in these days and times, to be able to see very specific how many people are complaining that this is happening as a result of hate or bias.
Yeah, in our conversation, they did give us some information about cases because we asked for some examples and how the complaints were presented and the results of the investigation. And the few cases that the complainant was accusing EPD of discrimination, all of them had been found based on documentation and video footage that there wasn't the case, that police was just responding to the crime itself or to the violation itself and not engaging with someone because of a protected class, because of the identity of that person.
Other folks have questions specifically about the report? Okay. Probably my only question to you about tomorrow specifically and over the next few months is, do you all have a plan to engage with media to try to broadcast the report, or using infographics or other forms of engagement to make the hate and bias report more accessible to the public?
Yes, media will be present tomorrow. We
Right.
have already received some requests for interviews, so it's always an opportunity to increase awareness about our reporting system and about the support that is available. The report is pretty clear in the language and the way it's presented with the charts and tables. We have not prepared any special like info chart or other material for that, but something that we could consider. We have not done that yet. And also, Bonnie, while we were talking, Mike did the research and posted the link. So for the panelists, there is a link on the chat box with the auditor's office report.
Yeah, specifically, I have, on the we've released this report every year for several years, and we get a lot of attention for it at the beginning. We always have media present. The last few years, we've done an actual in-person event. And then, we get sort of attention throughout the year. And then at the beginning of the year, sometimes we get a little bit of attention, but then it kind of just fizzles out. So I guess I'm more so curious, for Michael and Fabio, like, do you all have, are there other things you're hoping to accomplish with the hate and bias report, or you're just hoping to put it out, hoping that organizations are sharing it out widely, or, especially now that we're not able to be as in person as we used to be? Is there a plan to try and get it in front of as many people's eyes as possible, whether it be through social media, having other NGOs pick it up, or doing events, other NGOs specifically about the hate and bias report, and also just the system itself. The other thing I'm curious about too is, on other languages. I know that we have, certain community members that don't speak English. So have you all considered translating the report in Spanish or Vietnamese, or, some of these other languages? These are just some of the things that sort of percolating in my head.
Yes, we have not done translation of the report. We do translation of the community support letter, and that letter highlights the program as a whole and the ways for people to report. And we make sure in our communications that we do have staff. Lorna and myself, we speak Spanish, and we can we do talk to people in Spanish if they need support or they contact us. And when people call our office, there is a message in Spanish that directs them where they can leave their request, and someone will get in touch with them. A few months ago, the city did post the hate and bias reporting information on the front page of the website and try to increase visibility for this program. Now, as I mentioned, with the community support letter, we had 29 organizations last year helping us spread the word. For this round, we got 42 organizations so far, and there are a few more pending. So the number of people, we hope you receive a message about this report and the ways in which people can get help if they are a victim of a crime or discrimination, has a tendency to increase because we have more organizations joining us. We have not done outreach to businesses, and this time we got 3 business owners who contacted me about listing their businesses in the report. So we didn't include those 3 because we had not done outreach to all of them, but it is something that we will consider for the next round. And I just want to mention, because we have some participants in attending the meeting now that they can't see the chat. We have Beatriz Otero Hernandez. She works at the police auditor's office, and she is sharing information that yes, the report does present the complaints organized by the reason for the complaint, and some of them are complaints of discrimination, and some related to homelessness as well. Thanks, Beatriz. And Beatriz, she's in this meeting every month as a liaison to the auditor's office.
Mm-hmm. Do you all plans to use Alex Reyna? I know that he's going to be getting to do
yes
those news things. Are you have plans of having him present about?
Yes, we are sending tomorrow, Joe, a blurb for Alex. That is, the city has a contract with his channel now, and every week we have a spot to highlight something that the city is doing, and that's in Spanish. So the one for next week will be about the hate and bias report and the program itself.
Okay. Let me know if you all need support. I'm happy to hop on it, and, you know, as a representative of HRC, sort of talk in Spanish and answer questions. Or I think might be wise for us to try and hit some of the Spanish radio stations in town. But we can chat offline and all the bandwidth in the room. Does anyone else have any questions?
I was just going to say, Joe, I appreciate your thinking about how do we kind of keep this topic live throughout the year. And it's worth, I think, continuing to discuss maybe how we can partner on some of that. I know in the past, you know, we've and honestly, since I've re-engaged in this role, I'm not clear where we're at with this, but I know we used to partner with Calc in the past, and they would really help lead on a public response to a particular egregious event that might happen. And we might think about kind of re-engaging there and looking at, you know, opportunity, taking those unfortunate events to be an opportunity to actually get the word out and keep educating folks about that this is happening throughout the year. So
yeah. Okay, thank you. Anyone else have a question or thought about the report? Okay, thanks, Fabio. Okay, next we have discussion on EPD's pepper ball policy.
Yeah, so mostly I just have an update for the group on this, but at the last police commission meeting, the commission came up with a few edits to the pepper ball policy, and those were passed by the commission. So so that's where that policy is now. It's still in place over for EPD. And then Bonnie, Heather, and Daniel and I met a little bit ago and talked through the policy and a few of the related policies that Police Commission shared with us that are EPD policy. And we came up with some questions and some follow-ups that we wanted from police commissions and putting those over to the staff at police commission so we can get some feedback. And then we'll be scheduling another meeting when we have that. Bonnie reached out to ACLU and they sent us some helpful pieces. So we're just working on putting all of this together. Once we have a little bit more information from EPD, and then we'll be able to make a recommendation. One of the things that we talked about was asking possibly Chief Skinner to come, or someone from EPD come and explain the training that officers get around de-escalation. So I just basically had an update that that's where we're at with it and more to come. And you know, if anybody's interested in helping with that, you can let me know and I can add you to the group, and I'll probably schedule another meeting in the next week or so. And I don't know if anybody who was there wants to add anything either.
I mainly want to just thank you, Amanda, for being so proactive on this and bringing it to the full HRC and for pulling together that meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And like I said in our meeting, I'm really happy to have everybody's help with this, because it was a little bit, I don't want to say overwhelming, but that's the only word I can think of for me. So thank you.
Heavy lift.
Yes. Yeah. It felt like a lot. I was like, oh, I'm not a police officer or an analyst for the city. I don't know. So I really appreciate having everybody. And that's basically all I have, unless anyone has questions.
Anyone have questions? Okay. Thank you, Amanda. Thanks for the update. Oh, Councilor Semple.
Muting things. Can you give us any ideas of what the changes were in the Pepperball policy?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. They were, I'm trying to remember. I can send you the finalized document. They were really, really minor. I don't have it up in front of me, but I'll send it after the meeting, or I'll send it to Fabio. They were really minor. I think there was some discussion around when pepper balls could and could not be used on dogs and how and why. Yeah, and so I know it all sounds really gruesome, but basically the way that they described it is that a lot of times what they'll do is they'll shoot the pepper ball at the ground in front of the animal, and then the animal takes off. So then if there's an aggressive animal, the alternative is like shooting it with a gun or something. So they can avoid doing that and use the pepper balls instead. So we spent a lot of time talking through that. And then talked a lot about the definitions around using pepper balls for officer safety. But there weren't really many edits there, but I'll send that. Like I said, I'll send it to you all. But the commission did talk about wanting to discuss it again. And especially what was interesting, they talked a lot about a piece that our group talked about too, which was around first aid. So there in the policy, there's a section that speaks to offering first aid to folks who have been affected by the use of pepper balls or pepper spray. And our group was a little like, well, if you're using them to disperse a crowd, how are you going to offer first aid to folks that you're trying to disperse? It's kind of counterintuitive, I guess. And Police Commission was talking a little bit about making the language around that a little bit clearer. But we didn't end up doing it in this meeting. We talked about bringing it back in a couple more meetings. So, and then I had offered, of course, to the commission that we had this work group that was working on it too. And so maybe by the time Police Commission's ready to bring it back, we'll be ready to bring our recommendations, and then we can sort of bring everything together. So that's sort of what I'm thinking for process.
Thanks, Amanda. Go ahead, Rick.
I was just wondering, did you say you were looking at 3 other policies too? And what are those?
Yeah, gosh, it's quite a few. Within the Pepperball policy, there's policies that are referenced, like use of force, and couple of other ones, which I'm blanking on right now. So we asked the staff from Police Commission to send us all of the related policies. So our group was able to look through those. But then we also wanted to find out more information about policies that weren't necessarily referenced in there, but that we thought might be helpful. So things like de-escalation. It also wasn't clear to us when it's determined that crowd control is necessary. So it really wasn't clear in any of the policies we were looking at. When does it go from like peaceful protest to riot? You know, what is that deciding piece that says, okay, now we need to use crowd control, we need to escalate this, versus like we have a crowd of people and everything's fine. So that was some of the pieces we were asking for more information on.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
Oh,
have questions?
Ibrahim?
Oh,
Yeah, my takeaway from the police report tonight is you can have policies, and I know usually policies come with training because new policies usually are meant for change, and to implement that, you have to at least train people and inform them. The most effective way of informing people is through training. But my takeaway from the police report is you can schedule training, but you can't get EPD to go to training. So is there any way that the police commission, you can try to make policies trainings mandatory? I mean, I have training at my work. If I don't show up, it doesn't look good for me, and I have to. When it's mandatory, it's at my work time, and that's my assigned duty.
Yeah. Well, at Police Commission, one of the things that's come up a few times in the chief's report is that they're working on overhauling their training process, especially for new officers. And so that is something the chief is going to be bringing to Police Commission at some point. So when he does, that's definitely something I'll bring you all an update on as well. But at Police Commission, we don't necessarily talk about that, but I think that this group, I think that's kind of the realm that we're getting into, and some of the recommendations we would want to make once we get a hold of that information. So I think it is something we'd be looking at. I don't know if that helps, but.
yeah, I think it's something, I appreciate all your hard work on this, Amanda. I think it's something for us to, I mean, right at the end of the day, like the police commission's role is to talk to council and also to make and break policy. And, you know, I think Ibrahim's question is more so a question of, does the police commission have the will and wherewithal and to make a decision like that? And if not, then, you know, what is the role the Human Rights Commission has in influencing them to make that decision? We could do that through the city manager. We can certainly do that through the chief, and also just our own relationship with the police commission. So something for us to think about as we get closer and closer to 2021. You know, what is our responsibility as a commission when it comes to influencing what EPD does or doesn't do? Any other questions or comments?
Well, I guess in terms of influencing what they do, could we recommend the establishment of some type of metrics? Like if the response gets this bad, then we need phase 1 training where, you know, 60% of the traffic staff gets trained, or, you know, something like that would force them to have to choose a threshold for implementation so that a policy could be determined.
We're going to see something, Amanda?
Yeah, I mean, I think we could make any kind of recommendations that I think we want in this. As far as what I think police commission would do or wouldn't do with that, it's hard to say. We have 4 new commissioners on police commission. So it's sort of hard to predict. But that being said, I think we should make the recommendations that we feel are the best, most appropriate, most valid recommendations that we can make, and then I think we can sort of take it forward and see what happens.
Thanks, Amanda. I think I'm really excited by the prospect of new police commissioners. I think we should think about and perhaps having a more formal engagement with the police commission. I know in the past that certain commissions will do joint meetings, so perhaps that's something we can propose for 2021 is having an HRC and police commission meeting in which we have a discussion like we're having now.
Yeah, I think that would be really nice, and I think that police commission would appreciate it too.
Yeah.
Maybe
say something, Michael.
I was actually just scratching my face, but now that you've called on me, Joel, one thought came to mind. I just want to mention, a number of these issues you're talking about tonight, use of force, training, body cameras, are probably within the scope of topics the ad hoc committee on police policy is going to be discussing. And I know Kaz is here and he's going to talk about that. So there are other paths to getting these issues raised that are in process now. So just remember that.
Yep. Thanks, Michael. Anything else, Amanda?
Trying to.
I don't think so. I was just going to say that there's
to get leverage
from the Civilian Review Board on police commission. So I think that would be a nice thing for folks from Human Rights Commission to get a chance to speak with her too if we did it. So.
Good. Thank you. Okay. Let's move on to HRC work groups.
Hey, Joe. Sorry, while we were talking about Eugene Police, Lieutenant Harrison sent a message because he was also supposed to talk about a meeting between the EPD liaisons and the entire commission or the WCU work group, and it didn't happen in the conversation today, so we will do that via email.
Sounds good. Thanks, Fabio. Okay, HRC work group updates.
Go for it, Daniel.
So the VC work group met. Basically what we did was we went through all of the work plan items that were assigned to our group. We set up subcommittees to work on various work plan items, and those subcommittees have been meeting and will continue to meet until our next meeting on the 31st. Any more details you'd like to throw in, Bonnie?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, we're going to be bringing updates to the meeting on the 31st and continue moving. Moving forward on those, the only other thing is a discussion that we've just started today with Fabio and Daniel and me around WCU meeting with the various EPD detectives that are assigned to different communities, and that may occur at least with some of the detectives at our meeting on the 31st. So if you're interested in observing that, we haven't confirmed anything yet. We're going to try to get this figured out in the next 24 hours, I think.
Yeah, although we might need to be cautious. Fabio, you might be able to chime in on this as to how many HRC commissioners could be in on the work group meeting as participants versus just attendees. That might be something to be conscious of unless somehow the public notice accounts for that. Do you have any thoughts on that, Fabio?
If we need to have like more than 6 commissioners there, we can post it as just as a special meeting with only for that purpose. So we have any specific item and that will be okay. We just need to give notice that it's happening.
Okay, thank you.
And the other choice would be if additional commissioners just wanted to observe that, then we would not have to do that. Is that correct, Fabio?
Yes, they would be just like attendees, so they would not.
Right.
It would be just like someone watching the public meeting that is being broadcast.
Right.
Yeah, although I don't want to get too much down into the details of it, but the Q&A would still be open and available to observers as well as participants.
Yes, but that one is managed. But it would be easy if we know people want to participate. We can just post it.
Okay.
It would be easier.
Okay, thanks. But I'm looking forward to developing these relationships with the EPD liaisons.
Yeah, that's all I have.
That's it.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I could check in on the homelessness and poverty work group.
Sweet.
So we met and we talked, most of the meeting we spent talking about the upcoming work session tomorrow, in which the city council will hear a report on the possibility of if housing status was implemented as a protected class in the Human Rights Code. And we had an opportunity to review the memo that has gone out to council. And staff did a really good job summarizing a lot of what we were looking for, which is seeing which other jurisdictions have implemented this ruling, and then really kind of drilling down into the work that city council will be doing tomorrow. Councilor Semple requested the work session to be on the Human Rights Code component of housing as a protected class. So that's like people who might be discriminated against for housing or jobs because of being without a home. This doesn't necessarily mean that they'll talk about the criminal code change that would have to be made, so that if there's a hate and bias act of violence, that it could have the additional penalty of a year in jail or a $2,500 fine. So it's the work group's hope that council supports the idea of amending the city's Human Rights Code and the Eugene Code, intimidation in the second degree, because that'll be more evenly protect those who are experiencing homelessness, whether it's situational or chronic, from discrimination and acts of violence caused by hate and bias for their stigmatized condition. As far as this body here, the Human Rights Commission, is there anything we've already asked for City Council to move forward with making housing status a protected class? Is that correct? Or do we need to do something else to voice our recommendation to City Council at this point?
I could talk to this a little bit now instead of later. I talked to the mayor today about this. And, you know, when I made the work session poll, this was what came to mind. And I certainly want to expand it. And I wish that I had thought ahead to put the whole thing in the work session, but it's going to come up. It's going to be a very interesting talk. And both the mayor and I are hoping that we will at the end decide to have another work session, as we are wont to do, because the topic is going to be bigger than we anticipated. So I will certainly bring the message from HRC that that's our desire. I don't know if you want to officially do anything else, but I agree with you and I will be promoting that.
Thank you. I could also speak to our work group talked about the National Homeless Persons Memorial Day, which is part of our work plan. Right now we're reaching out to other groups in the community to find out what they're doing. We don't want to duplicate any efforts. We just want to support existing efforts to recognize that day. We're also talking about coming up with some marketing campaigns around hate and bias reporting for people who are discriminated against based on housing status, because we don't really feel like that message has gotten out very clearly from the city that that's something that they have the right to do is to call and report on acts of hate and bias because of they're experiencing homelessness. So at this next meeting next month, I'm going to come back likely with a draft and a request for a small budget to make sure that that hate and bias information is available in shelters and other locations where people living unhoused might be. And last, we spoke about how we might have a listening session for unhoused people to try to hear from people's firsthand their experiences in Eugene and have a dialogue in finding solutions together. It's going to be a big process, and we'll be talking about it over the next few months, and I'll report back next time.
Thanks, Heather. Anyone else have any updates? Okay. In that case, we'll move on to liaisons to other boards and commissions. I think we heard a little bit from Amanda already, but Amanda, if there's something else you need to report out on, or other folks who are on other boards and commissions, now's the time.
I can just share that I typed up a summary that's in the packet, so that's probably the best place to look. But I didn't really have much else to report besides what I already talked about.
The Housing Policy Board didn't meet this month, so there's no report from them.
Thanks, Rick. Anybody else?
Joe, we received requests for HRC participation in 2 processes, and it will be temporary assignments, and this would be perhaps a good moment to see those.
Please.
Let me share my screen and I will explain what they are. And I believe I sent an email a few weeks ago to the commission about those. It is related to the Middle Housing Code amendments. Let me make it a little bit bigger so you can read on the screen. So we have 2 processes in which the HRC is being invited to participate. The first one is to have a member or 2 in the steering committee. So this is the committee that would guide the process, and this is about the process to change our code so we can comply with the state law requiring a change to the single family housing and zoning ordinance and so on. So here you can see the composition of the steering committee. And highlighted in red is the piece about the Human Rights Commission. So sorry, for this first one, we have 1 position available. So we could get 1 commissioner to participate in the steering committee. The second opportunity is commission roundtable. So this will be something that's formed only by members of the other city boards and commissions, and we can have 2 people here. And they will have a first meeting on October 28th. So that one is coming up soon. And the next meetings will be next year. So the schedule has not yet been released. For this one, we can get up to 2 people.
I will volunteer for the second one.
I'd volunteer for the first one.
Anyone else want more work?
So Heather for the steering committee, is that right? And Ibrahim for the roundtable.
Ibrahim Koulibaly.
So we have one more spot for the second one, if anyone is interested.
Could you go over it one more time, Fabio? Just give us some context and stuff. This group was formed.
Yeah, so this is about the code amendments that must happen. So our code will comply with the new state law that made change to how single family housing happens in Oregon.
Both committees are having to do with the housing amendments, correct?
Yes, yes. One is the steering committee for the process itself.
Mhm.
The other one is a roundtable conversation for boards and commission members.
Got it. Specific. And what influence will each committee have in the overall process?
The first one is to inform the process itself and how it will be guided.
Right.
The second one is mostly to ensure that different perspectives, especially the perspectives of those boards, so you got Sustainability Commission, the Human Rights Commission, and so on, will be considered in the process. So the second one is more the equity portion of the project.
Got it. When do these start?
This one is on October 28th. So the roundtable conversation is already scheduled.
Sure.
The steering committee, the members would get invited to participate in the process.
Okay. Does anyone else want to hop on that second one? Eve, you're on mute. Go ahead. You gotta mute yourself. There we go.
Can you hear me? So the steering committee, what is their meetings? When are their meetings and how long and how often? Is there any information on that?
I don't have that in the material that I received. That's what I copied in the document I just shared, but they would schedule with the participants. Let me see if I find more information on my email about this. But for that one, as of now, we have Heather volunteering.
Yeah, I understand that. I just was curious. And it allows for outside participation. So they're public meetings, so you can be an observant, right?
Bobby, did you hear Eve?
Yeah, just one second. So I do have more information, Ib. So for the steering committee, they will meet on, they have 3 meetings scheduled. October 22nd, so that one is coming like in 2 days. October 29th and November 5th. It's at 1 p.m. It's a 1-hour meeting. So they have just 3 meetings scheduled.
Wow, okay. All right, those will, I mean, we can tap you for, or would that be in the meeting packets to where we can, if I wanted to know more, where do I go for information?
I will try to get more information from the staff leading the process.
Okay.
And if, let's just check now, Heather, with the times that have been scheduled for October 22nd, 29th, and November 5th, 1 to 2 p.m. Would you be available to join those meetings?
Sorry, I'm okay on the 22nd one. What's the other one?
29th and November 5th.
Okay. But I mean, I'm happy to, if you want to do it, I'm happy to stand aside.
No, you're good. I'm happy that you're volunteering.
So then Heather would likely be the best person to update us on this process because she will be in the steering committee, which will be making decisions about the process itself.
All right.
But Eve, we still need one more person to join me.
Oh, on the second one, yeah.
Yeah.
Roundtable. We've got the spot open if anyone wants it, and
yeah. For that one, only one meeting has been scheduled. It's on October 28th, 5:30. It's a 2-hour meeting, and the next meeting will be next year as the project's a little bit more advanced.
I will look. I want to bite off as much as I can chew, no more. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Fabio. I think, Amanda, you had another update for us.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that in the last Police Commission meeting, we also had Senator James Manning who came and he spoke about House Bill 4301, the transparency in policing and use of force reform. And that recommends the ban of chokeholds, which Chief Skinner had previously agreed to also discontinue the use of chokeholds. And then it also, they're also talking about a database to track like egregious policy violations by officers so that if officers are moving from department to department, that information is something that's able to be tracked. So you don't have somebody, you know, who did something egregious at one department and then just moves to another department. So that was interesting. And there's a little bit more about it in the notes there. And then we also had a presentation from Cindy Coleman, who's from Internal Affairs, and she spoke about how the process they go through reviewing incident reports and then which reports they send off to the DA's office for further investigation around conduct. So that was all I wanted to add.
Great. Thanks, Amanda. Anyone else have any updates before we move on? Okay. City Council report.
Thank you. I'm sorry I wasn't here last month. If you haven't heard, I was in a really serious car wreck. Drunk driver T-boned the car I was in. I was in the back seat. Pretty seriously injured. I had to have surgery and stay in the hospital. The long-term challenge is a concussion. So I've had to be really sparing in my screen time and my interactions. So it wasn't that I didn't care, but I have a medical excuse. The main thing that's exciting is what we're going to talk about tomorrow with the housing status, and we're really going to push to expand it. So that means it will take longer, but it will get us closer to where we need to be. The Police Policy Ad Hoc Committee is moving along. Their third meeting will be Tuesday, the 27th from 6 to 8. And we had a work session on communities of color workshop, and that's also moving ahead. Not quite as fast as we thought because we wanted to get it right, but there's a long list of stakeholders, representatives that will be asked to be involved. They're going to have a webinar so the group has baseline understanding of how the police community safety works, and then they'll have questions and answers, and then that bigger group will divide into focus groups of 10 people or less, and then there will be a survey open to the whole world, and then some workshops for general public input. And then it will come to council. So that should be, they figure, in 4 months. I'm really excited to have this information and input from both the workshops and the ad hoc committee. We really need to move along and make our world better. And that means we need to know what people need and want. So I'm glad that we're doing this outreach, and I hope it goes smoothly and quickly so that we can get on with saving the world. Council approved 5 new rest stops. This is huge, you know, after all these years of please, could we have more rest stops? Please, please, please. So kind of scratching my head, but I'm very grateful to this. I'm not, you know, they're spread out among the wards. Don't remember exactly where. I have a concussion, but it's really exciting. And of course, it's not nearly enough, but it is a step. Maybe you already know about this, but I was with Heather at lunchtime. She should talk to you if you don't know. This incredible tent. I want one so much, but we have to make 40,000 of them before I get to buy one. You can stand up in them. There's room for a bed and some other stuff. It's got windows. I was like, oh, windows, that is so cool. And you can put it up in 10 minutes, but it takes a half an hour to get the ropes tied down, and then it will withstand winds on Kilimanjaro or maybe the desert. And they are sewn, so I'm stealing maybe Heather's story, but get local sewers that, you know, want to help. It's like knitting socks back in the war. So I think this is just an awesome thing. I really hope the whole city can get behind it, because it could work and it could be cheaper and it could involve everybody to work on this solution. So thank you, Heather. I was just, it was the highlight of many months for me. Not a lot of competition, but I was really excited. Hate and Bias is tomorrow. We are moving forward with the 1059 Willamette, the old LCC building. We approved putting it out for an RFP and hoping to get 51% that's up to 80% of AMI. So it's not the low income, but it is a section of renters who fall in between actually being able to afford the expensive places and getting help. So our goal of having more people downtown, please have some people downtown. This is pretty exciting. I've been interested in mixed income housing since I started, because I really want everybody to have the ability to live downtown, you know, rather than gentrify and have the helpers have to move farther out. So I'm really excited about this project. Even though I never vote for MUPTI, the MUPTI that we got from Obi's project would go towards this. So silver lining. And I think that's all I've got for right now. Keep up the awesome work. And don't forget to vote. And if you drink, do not drive.
Thanks, Councilor Simple. Any questions?
I have one addition about council, is that on the 26th, we have the work plan for the Human Rights Commission being appreciated by council. And Joe, are you presenting that day? If not, you can appoint someone else.
What day is it again, Fabio?
26th.
Tuesday or Monday? That's Monday.
It's the Monday. And I believe it's the
Monday.
Yes.
What time?
5:30.
Yeah, I'll be there. Ibrahim, you had a question for Councilor Sambul?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to thank Councilor Sample for everything she's doing right now for the AMP house. And we've been following us as Human Rights Commission, but commissioners, but also people who care about what's going on in the community. And even though you were not here last month, we have been following everything you're doing for the armed forces in this city. And I want to thank you for what you do.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It really means a lot to me.
I also want to thank you, Councillor Semple, and I did not know that you had been in an accident. I'm really sorry to hear that, and hope that you are getting well, better each day. And thank you for what you plan to do tomorrow with, pressing further to expand this work on regarding criminalization of homelessness.
It's critical. We know that. We've been asking for a long time. I'm still irritated that my work session poll from almost 2 years ago didn't move ahead. So to start, we have a lot more work to do besides this. And the concussion and the crash were not on my bucket list, and I do not recommend it. But it's quite the learning experience, so I don't know. But I'm really glad to be involved in this work. I think in a lot of ways it's underneath everything else that the city does. And we get caught up with, oh, money and bookkeeping and pools, they're important, but everybody has to be human, and we need to recognize that and take care of each other. So this is a really great commission, and I am also grateful to all of you. So thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Semple. Move on to the Human Rights Neighborhood Involvement update.
We have three main topics for updates today. One is with Cass and the ad hoc committee work and the work that he's doing as multicultural liaison. And we probably have some more information about the housing one and the CSI that will be another project that will be involved in conducting community engagement. So Mike and I can offer more information about that one. Kaz, would you like to go first?
Sure. So I'll very briefly cover my non-ad hoc committee work first, because there's a lot less of it. I'm having meetings with the people who are running Oregon 2022. They're very initial at this stage, and the aim there is to ensure that marginalized communities and communities of color are in at the ground floor when it comes to things like hiring, making sure that kids who are in school now are made aware of the fact that there will be job opportunities coming up in a couple of years' time. And when it comes to things like security jobs or food handling jobs, there are certain qualifications that they need in order to be able to do that. So those are the sorts of conversations we're having there. But as I'm sure some of you who are on the committee will be aware, the bulk of my work for the last month or so has been on the ad hoc committee. We've had two meetings. One was introductions. The next one had some substantive elements to it. We heard from actually some of the same people that I think other members of the HRC have been talking to. So we heard from Cindy Coleman, we heard from the Deputy Police Auditor, and that process is kind of going ahead. We're conscious that given the scope of the work, there's not a huge amount of time to get it done. So one of our first orders of business was to ask members to prioritize the policy areas that they were most interested in. We're meeting again next Tuesday, where we'll present the results of that prioritization survey, and this will help us to focus in on some of the key issues. I'll open out to questions in just a second, because I think that's the most effective way to get the Commission's views. But the last thing that I'll say is that some of the things that have been mentioned here tonight, such as pepperballs, use of force and oversight, are all things that will be discussed by the committee. And it is absolutely open for for members of this commission to feed information through, through the members that have been appointed, whether that's in the form of a short report or some form of testimony. We very much welcome the input of the folks on this commission. So with that, I'll open it out to any questions that anyone might have.
Questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Kaz, given that the city council created this 30-member group, how do you feel it's going? What's the likelihood you're going to be able to really dig as deep as you need to dig into each of these issues to make this really an effective use of all of our community members' time? Could you talk about that some, and how do we get from here to there?
Sure. I mean, this is proving to be a challenge. I think if you go back and look at the video of the 24th of July meeting, when the motion was passed, there was an aspiration expressed that it might be possible that we'd be able to meet in person at some point during the committee's process. It's now looking like that's not going to be possible. And various different committee members have expressed a wish to have some sort of engagement outside of the committee as it's currently set up. There are some challenges around this to do with public records law and also, frankly, staffing issues. In that, if we were to have a bunch more meetings, however they were set up, then that introduces a capacity issue. There are three of us working on this, kind of myself, Mo Young, who's with Lane County, and Kevin Altucker, who's a consultant. But yeah, this is absolutely a challenge. So part of what we've done is this prioritization exercise to really kind of focus in on the issues that are most relevant and most pertinent. We're also trying to minimize repetition. So I put together a database of all of the policy areas that are covered in Campaign Zero and 21st Century Policing. For those of you who are interested, that database will be going up after the next meeting on the website with all of the other materials of the ad hoc committee. But this is the challenge that we face. From that database, we're able to identify the policies EPD has already enacted, so we can remove those from the table, as it were, and that further narrows it down. But frankly, it is a challenge, and I think COVID plays a huge part in that. The fact that we can't meet in person, the fact that everything's slower on a platform like this.
Kaz, may I chime in with my perspective from sitting on the committee? And I've spoken with several other committee members about this. So the spreadsheet that Kaz mentioned has 211 policy recommendations in 11 major policy areas. That's a daunting task for 30 people to go through in what's now left of 8 two-hour meetings. It's the hope of several of us on the committee that we will be able to form subcommittees to dive deeper down into some of these major policy areas and bring key findings and recommendations back to the committee. Otherwise, I don't see how we will be able to go through this all by the end of January. Just an aside from my own perspective, so many of these policies support one another, and to be asked to prioritize this policy on use of force versus this policy on oversight when you need all of them in conjunction supporting up meaningful police reform. My concern is that some key policies that could be pivotal in helping to support the ones that the committee members think are priorities get left behind. And so that to me is the risk, but those of us on the committee are going to do the best we can. Also, Kaz, you've just been doing a phenomenal job. It's a huge, heavy lift to be supporting us on the committee through all of this. So I would love to hear feedback, and I would really love to hear ongoing feedback and input from you all as this committee process moves forward.
Kaz, do you have any other updates specifically about this? I think, oh, sorry, Ibrahim, you had a question?
Assalamu alaikum, Kaz. Thank you for doing what you do, but I have a few questions about the ad hoc committee. First is with 30 people, you have to make a recommendation to the city council by January 31st. Am I right?
As matters currently stand, yes.
Okay. By January 31st. So my concern is giving to the timing. We already at the end of October. We're gonna have November and December, but we have people in this community who need to talk to your ad hoc committee. Meaning yours, I mean the city ad hoc committee. People who believe, we don't have to judge, we don't have to trust or believe them or not, but people who have something to say about this entire process, people who are not in the community, in that committee. You have people who have had a very bad experience to their point of view with Eugene police. Sometimes it ended in a very bad way. I'm talking about the Bob family tonight. And I personally know Stephanie Bob, who's the brother of Captain Bob, who got killed by the police. And I'm organizing a platform for her to address next Monday. But I think that for people in the ad hoc committee, that is meant to address the police reform. That those people should be giving a time to address that committee and say, hey, it doesn't matter if you side with us or not, but this is our experience with the police department. Do what you want with our narrative, but we want you to be aware of that before you make recommendation. To me, January 31st, it's like we're rushing into something. I don't know what it is. I don't know if the city has an agenda or city has already something not compliant. They would just want to call people from here and there within the city and say, come put a stamp on your organization on what we want to do, or the city really cares about what the community think about Eugene Police Department. And if the city does, why rush? Why put January 31st as the deadline, the timeline where this ad hoc committee have to bring something to the city council? So here's my question, and here's my my concern. Here are my concerns. January 31st. Do you think, and in this one, I know you're here as a city employee, but I don't want to reflect on this as a city employee, but as someone who is involved on this and also seeing this. Do you think that the January 31st deadline or January 31st for you to report to the city council is something doable, or do you expect to have more time? That's one. Second thing is,
Ibrahim, could you wrap it up? We got some more.
I'm gonna wrap it up, Joe, please. So second thing is, we're seeing all the organizations involved in this ad hoc committee. Your criteria to bring the report to the city council is simple majority, 51%, meaning that you can present to the city council something that's like, that may be turned down by 49%. I'm a president of NAACP. I may be one of the 49%. So what is your plan of dealing with people who are not among that 51%, meaning that if you take 16 people who may agree on doing this, on moving a report to the city council, while even most of our organization may not agree with. Thank you.
Yep. I'm going to deal with your second question first, if I may. I stated in the first meeting that we don't want to impose a unity of voices if there's a plurality of voices at the table. And so one of the things that we're very conscious of is that the majority voting system and Robert's rules is not necessarily the best way for us to proceed. One of the reasons that we tried out the prioritization system, where people can rank things from 1 to 11, as it was in the survey that was sent out last week. And my apologies for talking about something, Ibrahim, that you haven't been able to see yourself. But the point that I'm trying to get to is that we want to make sure that all of these recommendations go forward. And then committee members, where we're trying to get to is rather than voting yes or no, they vote priority 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then it's up to us as the facilitation team to stack all of those up and say, well, these are the top 25 or 100 or whatever the case may be, depending on what comes forward. And that way, every single recommendation that people want to see come forward will come forward, but it would also be weighted on the basis of how many people feel that it's a priority. And hopefully when people see the way that the prioritization has worked out with the decision on honing down on policy, they'll be willing to buy into this concept. On your first question, the point about whether we have enough time, I mean, I'm rapidly forgetting what a weekend looks like. I am doing my best to make this viable, but as a council staffer, I am bound by the motion as passed by council. And the motion as passed by council asks for a report back by January 31st. Now, it may be that that was done in July, and council may be minded to look at that again. But I can't work on that assumption. I am going to do, and my colleagues are going to do, the best possible job that we can in the time we have allotted. And if there are any changes to our parameters, then we'd be very grateful for that. But yeah, we'll do the best we can, and we will make sure that something is delivered for this community that really gets to the bottom of these issues and dives into its needs.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, Joe.
Sorry, other folks have questions. I want to make sure we get to the person.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I have a question, George, that relates to this timeline, and that is to guarantee that HSE has 2 people attending the ad hoc committee meetings. Since you could not attend the meeting so far, would you like to continue on or appoint someone else or volunteer someone else to stay?
I'll be there at the meeting next week. Ib, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I was going to want to address the enormity of the task that Kaz has at Kaz and Kevin and Mo, that they have at hand, and whether it's realistic that we'll end up with a product that we are proud of, whether we will end up with a watered down, diluted set of recommendations that amount to a rubber stamp for policies that really do not spell real change to the policing that we are entrusted with. With 30 members, I know the prioritization segment that came out last week was important, but nonetheless, I am there's doubt in me that we can accomplish that and accomplish it, have it be well done. So that's a concern that I hope that can be addressed. I do believe that Daniel's suggestions of subcommittees that can dive deeper into topics and come back with recommendations might be a needed a task element to this overwhelming task that that we're seeing, trying to address. So.
Thanks, Eve. Real quick, folks, I just want to propose something before we take any more questions. Since we're all here together, I'm wondering if it would, Daniel, if you'd like to take a first attempt at it, if we can send a letter to council with some of the concerns that you have outlined for us today, specifically regarding the need to split up the group of 30 into smaller, more manageable groups to have these conversations and have it not be a sort of,
my understanding of the way that the committee is set up is that the committee is empowered to be able to, through parliamentary procedures and Robert's Rules of Order, bring motions to the committee to organize ourselves in whatever way we as a committee see fit, as long as it falls within public records law and other appropriate laws and under the the terms of the city council. I intend to bring up a motion for that. I would say at this point to let the process of the committee run its course. If we do run into resistance, or if it seems that the committee is not really able to fully discharge the duty that council has assigned to it, I would be more than happy to draft a letter and to that effect.
Great, thank you.
For now, I don't see it's needed.
Great. I had Bonnie and then Eve, and then actually let's do Bonnie, Eve, and then Rick, and then if folks can please be brief on their questions. We only have 10 minutes left, and I think Fabio may have some more updates for us.
I have observed the first two meetings, and my hope is to observe the rest of them. So though I haven't been able to speak, I certainly am aware of what's going on in the meetings. I would like to hear from Kaz what he thinks is possible and what is not possible. And I would also suggest and wonder whether or not this is appropriate for us to ask Emily to begin some conversations or whatever it takes, or to bring this to the city council, that there's very likely some changes that are going to need to be made in order for the committee to be able to carry out what seemed in June or July, whenever that was passed, the charge of the city council. But I would like to hear what Kaz, I would like to hear some of Kaz's responses to all what he's hearing right now from various commissions.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, this is going to be a challenge to complete, to fulfill the charge in the time available. And that is why we've focused down on the issues that are most important. On the issue of breakout groups or subcommittees, there are certain restrictions. We need to be able to have those as public meetings, which in turn requires a substantial investment of staff time, and that's a limitation. Ensuring that those are structured in such a way that they feed effectively back into the main meetings is also a considerable lift. But that said, I think that the general consensus in the committee seems to be, and amongst those watching, that it is going to be a serious challenge to try and fulfill the charge in the time allowed. And it may be because I haven't had much of a weekend for the last month, but I'm increasingly inclined in that direction. What I would say as well, referring to Daniel's point, is that it is absolutely within the purview of the committee to bring a motion asking for anything that is within the charge and within the law to be set up as a means for the committee to discharge its business. So, for example, as I understand it, and I am no lawyer, subcommittees would be covered under the given charge, whereas extending the length of time needed to report back would not be covered because there's a set date for reporting back, which is in the council motion.
Thanks, Kaz. Rick, and then Ebe, and then Councillor Sample. You're on mute, Rick.
You're muted, Rick.
I'll pass my time. Thanks.
Thanks, Rick.
Me next?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. So I personally think that the January 31st deadline is not doable. It's only doable if we don't want to give the time to the community to be able to address the ad hoc committee. And I'm happy. I'm grateful that Kevin and Kaz are here tonight, and I'm thinking about how we, as a Human Rights Commission, not only as a Human Rights Commission, but as being activists from the community, coming to this commission here. And worrying and wondering about the feedback we get from our communities. How can we, as the Human Rights Commission, can advocate for the City Council to try to expand that time frame from January 31st and give them like 2 more months to March the 28th, for them to be able to hear from the community, because we have a lot of people. I'm speaking as the president of NAACP, who receive a lot of complaints from people, and we want that committee, those 30 people, to hear from these people and to learn from their experience on dealing with the police, Eugene Police Department. One of the things that we see is a lot of people even do not believe that there is a police brutality against minorities in Eugene. So what a great opportunity to give them a stand, to give them a podium to address this community. My second thought would be about the ad hoc committee itself. We as Human Rights Commission here, we all, and I know, yeah.
We have 5 minutes left. Good.
Okay, I'm gonna use 2 minutes and I'll be out. I know that we, all of us here, care deeply about the police reform. But my concern is we are already at the end of October. We have November, December, and January. But if our own commissioners like you, Joe, is not attending the meeting, how can we be sure that what deeply matters to us is brought to the community, to the committee? I think it's gotta be a way for us to hold ourselves accountable when we make the commitment to this board, to this committee here, to attend a board meeting or a committee meeting, something that important that like this ad hoc committee, we have to show up. You haven't been there for the first 2 meetings. The first 2 meetings, you were not there. And that's not okay, because me and anybody else in this committee thinks that it's very important for us as human rights community to have our voice here at this meeting. But you have not been there. And I will offer to you to vacate your position so we can appoint someone else to attend. And believe me, I know that you mean well. You mean whatever you want.
Gotta wrap up.
Yeah, I'm gonna wrap up. But I think that you just don't have the time to do it. And why don't you vacate your position for us to appoint someone else who's going to attend? Because we need someone who's going to be present. Okay, that's. Thank you for listening. And I want to say I'm not directly targeting you. I'm not, but I think it's very important to us. It's very important to me. I want you to vacate your position so we can appoint someone else. Thank you.
Thanks, Ibrahim. Councilor Semple.
Thank you. This isn't as hard as we're making it out to be. Council, come on, we're famous for changing our minds and saying we need more time. One of the reasons is council doesn't always know what we're asking staff to do. We have this great idea we want here, it takes 6 months. And maybe it doesn't take 6 months, but we don't know that until somebody comes and tells us 6 months is not going to cut it. So one of the reasons we put such a short time frame on it is because the community was, rightly so, had so much energy and was demanding a response, which we want to give them. So we thought, okay, there's all this energy, there's information, we want to know how to proceed. We can't do it without hearing from people. So there's 2 parts. One, we wanted to respond quickly and let people know we get it, this is urgent. But the other part is there's no reason to do it if it's not good information. And if we need more time to get good information, and especially if the ad hoc committee itself says, yes, we need more time, rather than why don't you hurry up, it will be much easier. I am happy to start this conversation. I will email the mayor tomorrow and say, this is, what I heard. How do we, make this happen? So your support for that is great. But I think that unless Kaz has a different comment, it would be advantageous to get this going tomorrow. What do you think?
I would certainly welcome more time to be able to do this work. I know the committee would as well. And just finally, I know we're coming up to time. There is a process for changing nominees to the committee. It requires a motion of council, so it cannot be done immediately and cannot be done lightly. And my understanding is the council's agenda is packed. So that's purely for a point of information on Ibrahim's previous statement. And with that, I will hand over to, I believe Fabio is up next. But yes, Councillor Semple, certainly I think the committee members would welcome more time to be able to.
Well, I've heard tonight that there's enough reason to say we need more time for this to be effective. And I think as long as council hears that, because really we were trying to react to, oh my gosh, we need to do this now. So now
Joe,
a little bit longer, council's not going to have a problem like that.
Thank you, Councilor Semple.
Councillor and Joe, just to make clear, if it is to be carried as a position of the commission would need a vote. to make that the position of the Human Rights Commission. Otherwise, it can be reported just as something that was shared at the meeting.
Sure.
Yeah, I make the motion for us to ask for the city council and to mandate the councilor Emily Sample to make that recommendation to the city council to extend the ad hoc committee time by 2 months.
A second.
Any discussion about Ibrahim's request?
Sorry, I had a hard time hearing. That was to extend the ad hoc committee's time frame by 2 months. 2 months.
Yes.
I'm not sure that I would specify a time. I would either defer to a rec. Either defer. Yeah, I would amend it to remove the time frame of 2 months.
Just ask for an extension.
I'm sorry?
Just ask for an extension.
Yeah, ask for an extension, and I would also amend it to base the time of well, no, strike that.
Great. Ibrahim, do you accept Daniel's amendment?
No, because I think we need to give them a time frame. We cannot let it go indefinitely. And you know, it's 2 months. It's a proposition, but
Sure.
if Daniel was, yeah.
Does anyone else have a friendly amendment then, now that Daniel's was struck down? Okay, so we've got a motion.
Well, then I would amend it to 3 months. That taking adding basically half of the 6 original months, which really was only 4 once the committee actually met.
Sure.
I accept that friendly amendment.
Great. Bonnie?
No, that's fine.
Okay, 3 months. All those in favor? Any noes? Okay, motion passes. Thanks, Ibrahim.
Thank you, Councillor.
Fabio, do you have any other updates?
I will be super brief just because it's important for the commission to know and have it on the record. There is another process related to public safety, which is the CSI funding, so the Community Safe Initiative. Mike presented to City Council a new process on how we are going to conduct that engagement. And it is a process to hear from the community, more specifically to hear from communities of color, how people want the funds that will be raised with the new tax, how people want those to be used to comply with the CSI mandate that council approved. And that also has a timeline. We have a shorter timeline to present it to council, and our office will be directly involved in conducting that process. We will ask for representation from WeSeeU. It's one of the groups that we list for that process, because it's aimed specifically at communities of color. But there will be an opportunity as part of the design process for the entire community to participate. We will have some more updates regarding the Human Rights Commission and Council, especially the upcoming work plan review. I will send those via email because we are out of time today.
Thanks, Fabio. Appreciate it. Real quick before we break, I think folks should just have send in their next month's HRC agenda items via email. I would like to make a motion right now for folks, just based on what I've been hearing, both in the community and also today in comments from folks. I have been speaking with Western State Center, as well as the Democratic Party of Oregon and some national partners on election protection and also potential violence after the election. As Ibrahim mentioned earlier, and those of you have talked about, there is a very real potential of hate crimes increasing significantly post-election, regardless of the outcome, and also a potential for some democracy defense. So I'd like to make a motion to write a letter to council asking and requesting for a formal city plan to around hate crimes surrounding the election, and also protection of our democracy.
No, that's only 2 weeks away. And I don't know that council will get that together in 2 weeks.
In that case, then I'd like to just write a list of recommendations from HRC to council, specifically about election protection and also just like hate crimes, post-election.
This wasn't.
I think that would be great if, you could make a list.
Sure.
We do have items and a forum on Monday, and that's a time I can bring this up.
Okay.
So if I get it earlier and I can let council know, so it's not a surprise, that has a better chance. I mean, we have an opportunity, but it has to be kind of on the fly.
Sure. Would it be easier, Councilor Semple, for me just to come and do public testimony?
You should do that, but I should get the information out first because we're gonna ask for a decision like that night. So, because we'll only have Monday or Wednesday and it's over.
Sure, and there's stuff to do. There's a lot of stuff to do afterwards. It's not just right then. It's in the weeks and months after the election as well. So
I get that. And if that's what you want to ask for, then it takes away the urgency. But if you want, I don't know, the police are going to come up with the plan, not council. So I'm not exactly sure what you're asking for. But if you get it through my head what we're asking for, I'll go ask it.
Okay.
Hey, Joe, just a note again on process, because if it's to be a recommendation for the commission, we would have to get that discussed by the commission and approved. And we don't have that time unless the commission agree to have a special meeting.
No, in that case, just scratch my ask. I think what I'll just forecast for you all is that, sorry for the background noise, folks. The joys of Zooming at home. Dinner's being cooked right now. In that case, what I'll do is I'll just have a phone call with Councilor Semple and just continue to talk about some of the conversations I've been having with folks at the Western State Center, as well as our friends over at NARAL Pro-Choice. There's a lot of talk and a lot of concern, as some of you have brought up today, about the elections. I also know that there's going to be a consortium of community-based organizations who are going to be signing on and circulating a letter, not just here in Lane County, but across the state, for election protection and also hate crime vigilance. And certainly you all will begin to see that early next week. So I'll just stop here and save us additional long conversation.
Yes, you can also send it to HRNI, Joe, and we will share with city staff as appropriate if it's something that doesn't require council action.
Yeah, I'll follow up with you and Kaz, and also I'll because it's a community meeting, I'll also extend the invite to other commissioners. There's going to be a meeting early next week to talk about this issue. So I'll be sure to send that out to the email listserv so that everyone can come and participate and listen in if they'd like.
I would just like to say that it would, this is a big subject and it's an important subject, and it would have been nice if it was like an agenda item and we would have actually had time to discuss it.
Yeah.
Because, 30 seconds at the end of a meeting when everybody's.
It just popped in, and to be honest with you, Bonnie, it just kind of popped into my head. There's a lot going on right now, so it's a lot of stuff's in flux and things are moving fast. So I definitely appreciate that. But like I said, I'll try and call some of you this week, and if we need to do something on the fly, we'll do something on the fly. But this conversation, I literally had it last night with a local community group, and they brought up the idea. So, yeah. But it is 7:41. Could I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Second.
I second.
Second.
it.
Second by Daniel.
Bye.
Ah, beat you to it, Heather.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Good night, everyone.